Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Science Dispatch podcast. My name is Cameron English. That is Dr. Chuck Dinnerstein, Director of Medicine at the American Council on Science and Health. Chuck, what's going on?
It's a beautiful afternoon in mid-October. So.
I love it. It's my favorite time of year. I love to, on YouTube, you can turn on these music backgrounds and there's like a scenic porch or something. And there's like leaves falling and there's a fire crackling. And it's my favorite thing, absent a real fire, because it's not quite time for that. But
I hear that part. Well, we've had several fires started in the living room because it's been getting a little nippy. And, unfortunately, what I see at the stores is a combination of very large bags of candy and Christmas ornaments. So I'm confused. Perhaps we should stuff the candy into the turkeys that are also available.
They just can't let the seasons breathe, man. They just can't. Enjoy time. You're going to be dead soon, right? Enjoy Halloween, then enjoy Thanksgiving, and then enjoy Christmas. You don't have to...
No. You don't have to mash them all together.
Yeah.
So at this point, I have a turkey under my tree. It's stuffed with candy, and we're good to go.
Yeah, just lower your time preference a little bit, folks. Just one thing.
Well, before we jump into the topic, so what are the children dressing up as? They must be trick-or-treating. You wouldn't deny
What are they doing? I think we got, my son is going through a firefighter phase.
Okay.
So we got him the full-blown firefighter rig. We got the fake, air mask and all that stuff.
Nice.
And my daughter is doing, there's this new thing called K-pop Demon Hunters on Netflix.
Yes.
So we're swept up in that trend too. I think she's going to dress up as one of those characters. So it'll be a good time.
Okay.
Good time. Yeah. All right. In case anyone was wondering, that's what my kids are doing for Halloween. We're talking about one of the possibly the most inane topic in all of public health, which is food addiction. And I can't stand it. Well, I'll explain as we go, even though we've talked about it several times. Anyways, Chuck, this is an article by you from October 8th. It's called The Anatomy of a Food Addiction Study. Here's the introduction and then break it down for us. A new study claims that, quote, ultra-processed food addiction affects 1 in 8 older adults. But how solid is the science behind that headline? Beneath the striking numbers lies a web of assumptions about what counts as addiction and even what qualifies as ultra-processed. Do the study's definitions, measures, and interpretations measure up? Do its bold claims hold up under scrutiny? My guess is no, Dr. Dinnerstein, but you provide us the answer, please.
Well, so I didn't really want to get too deep into the answer because I was attracted to the article because I converted that sigh that you had into a chance to talk about how I debunk articles because, we spend a lot of time reading science, and I'm paid to read science with a more skeptical view than the ordinary reading public. So I thought this was a perfect time to point out some of the ways that red flags pop up as we read an article. And it begins with the title and the introductory framing, which talks about ultra-processed food addictions. And what I point out is right away we are off on shaky ground because, as you've pointed out, and I point out in the writing, there is no universal agreed-upon definition to food addiction or to ultra-processed foods. So we have two ambiguous definitions that we're mashing together. So at this point, it's going to be very tough to measure anything where there's going to be any kind of an agreement at all. And I'm afraid that what's really going on is that the study begins with a diagnosis already in mind, and that all the subsequent choices by the researchers are going to be aimed at confirming their bias, that confirmation bias. So then I went off and I started to look at some of the variables that are in there. And Coca-Cola, potato chips, and chocolate are part of what they consider prototypical ultra-processed foods, except the NOVA classification, which is the one that has gained the most traction, would not classify chocolate necessarily as an ultra-processed food. So right away we start to see some problems in terms of that. And then they make use of a food addiction scale to determine whether people have an addiction to processed foods. And they make a very big point of pointing out that the food addiction scale has been previously used in science and has been previously shown to be a validated measure. But it's a validated measure of what some people consider food addiction. It has nothing at all to do with ultra-processed foods. It has only to do with foods for which people have a problem. And when you look deep into the summaries of the articles and into the supplements to the article, which I guess are as regulated as supplements are at the supermarket, you find that the question that they ask the individuals is, have you ever had a problem with ultra-processed foods or any other food that you have a problem with? So they're really reporting on foods that people have some kind of behavioral problem with. And by that I mean, if we can go with that old line from Lay's, you can't just eat one. I had that problem with potato chips. If I open a bag of potato chips, I'm doomed. I will eat until either I fall over or the bag is empty. So that's a problematic food for me. That it's ultra-processed or not has very little to do with it. I don't have the same response to kale, I will be honest. I can't hold off after eating kale for a certain length of time. But basically, when you get into the nitty-gritty of the article, the tool that they're using to measure things, number one, has never been verified to work for ultra-processed foods. More importantly, the question they ask includes not just ultra-processed foods, but foods you have a trouble with. So that could be anything. So right away, the validity of the study is coming into question. Finally, what bothered me even more was the discussion section when they bring up the great Satan of all addictions, the tobacco playbook, and pointing out that food addiction really, really took off when the large food companies were bought by the tobacco companies in the 70s, and the tobacco companies presumptively applied the same addictive science measures that they had for nicotine to food. And so overall, with that skepticism in mind, you can see multiple red flags in the article suggesting that the researchers had already decided what they were going to report in the discussion long before they gathered the data.
I clicked over to the paper while you were pontificating just to see who the authors were. I saw University of Michigan. I bet she's the author. Sure enough, Ashley Gerhardt is the senior author on the paper. And this has been her career, is just force-feeding rats Cheetos and doing sucky epidemiology to validate that.
That would be fine if you force-feed. This was just a survey,
let me start here. Would you please provide maybe a general definition of addiction? What is, to say someone is addicted to something, what does that mean? You don't have to give us a dissertation, but what does that mean?
Well, we no longer are thinking of addictions in strictly physiologic terms. That's really been the big change. We now talk about addictions in terms of behavioral terms. And basically, an addiction is when you do something that's bad for you despite knowing the fact that it's bad. And they measure that badness in terms of do you do it secretly? Do you do it so that it interferes with work or your social life? Do you do it despite the fact that you know it's bad for you? Any of those things are measures of addictive substance disorders.
Over time, right? It's a pattern of that behavior, right? So someone who eats one bag of Cheetos on a Friday night is not an addict based on that measurement, right?
No, exactly. But if they want them put themselves in the closet and did it because they didn't want to see their roommates they didn't want their roommates to see that they were doing it, that takes it to another level.
Okay. Well, here's why I asked, because I just went through the paper, and I have not read the whole thing, but I'm just looking at the things that they report as the limitations. And this is hilarious to me. So they say, direct quote, mainly this study was a cross-sectional observational study which limits the ability to make causal inferences. Yeah, no kidding, right? So in other words, what you just said, if I heard you, was that addiction is a pattern of harmful behavior that you persist in despite the consequences to yourself and people around you. So if you take a snapshot in time and you say these people are this addicted and they're this age,
okay, I know where you're going here.
Yes. Okay. So in other words, your design cannot even answer the question that you have already answered in your mind. This
Correct.
is fluff. This is resume padding. This is birdcage liner in a journal that no one is going to read is what this is. This is written for the news headlines.
Well, I would argue that it was written for more than the news headlines. I think that you have to remember that publications are the coin of the realm, and that publish or perish is alive and well in academia. And I think you're right in saying that she's found a research niche to mine, and this is more of the products from that mine. Whether that results in a social headline is of less consequence to her than the fact that it gets published in a peer-reviewed journal, which she can then add to the coinage that she has in terms of acquiring tenure and all the other things that come with being an academic researcher.
Couple others here. I'm not done yet. And here's why I'm getting sassy, is because I had an academic contact me recently about my other podcast and say, you need to take a break on the peer review process. We're doing the best we can, and the system works pretty well. And then, a few days later, here we are talking about this. I don't even know here we go. Here's another one. Here's another one. I can't believe, if I was a reviewer on this paper, this would be disqualifying. Additionally, one-item measures of health and functioning were used to reduce participant survey burden. Oh, well, let's not burden the survey participants. Future research should implement more robust measures of physical health, mental health, and social well-being to more closely examine the association of these factors with ultra-processed food addiction. Hey, just a thought. You guys with your super fancy 3-letter degrees after your name, maybe you should do that the first time. That's called data collection. A one question. What are we doing here?
Okay, so
what can you measure with one item, Dr. Dinnerstein? When you would see a patient for the first time, would you say, "Are you feeling good overall today? Is everything good on a scale of 1 to 10?" Oh no. Okay. Would you like some insulin? Maybe that'll no. What are we doing?
Okay, so I think you've fallen into another area of great weakness that, again, I'm going to take back to ascribe to these coins of the realm. Doing research doing research is costly. It costs time and it costs money. As a result, in the very competitive world of academics, a lot of what goes on in research is nothing more than data diving in long-standing surveys that are run by other organizations, by NGOs, or by the government itself. I mean, if you look at the preponderance of food studies, they come from the National Health and Nutrition Examination Survey, which has been going on for 10 or 15 years, because then you can start to get longitudinal data and you can build from there. Unfortunately, you're stuck with whatever parameters that they had. So I agree with you. It would be much better to spend a little additional time and gather all the information you need, but our research systems are not designed for that kind of long-term commitment.
You mean answering actual questions?
I'm saying that they are. I'm trying to be nice here.
I know, and look, and let me spare you having to do this dance. This is a waste of time and money. This was publicly funded. This is a waste of time, and this is, This is always what I get when I talk to academic scientists. Oh, it's publish or perish. We have these constraints and we're doing what gets published. I don't care anymore. I just don't care. Produce useful science or go get another job. Go work at Walmart. Go become a mechanic.
I'm going to say one thing on behalf of my colleagues is that I'm going to ascribe this to a short-termism. What have you done lately is a problem. It certainly is a problem here, and you voice a very legitimate concern. But my communist background makes me say that this short-termism also carries over into the corporate world and causes a lot of other issues. This short-termism that Jack Welch brought to General Electric that has spread throughout the corporate world about meeting your quarterly goals, irrespective of what that means for the company, I would argue is why Boeing planes fall out of the sky.
But look, I agree. I am not trying to excuse corporate malfeasance, which is rampant. There's no doubt about that. But this paper, research like this, it doesn't help anybody. It helps them because they can put it on their resume or they can put it on their CV. No, but it doesn't like if you were still practicing, this would not help you treat a patient who has food addiction or what. Like,
no. It might clue me to some questions to ask, but it certainly does not help me in that regard. And you're right, it doesn't add anything to our knowledge base. It just kind of refashions things for the study du jour.
A couple more. I got to do this. I'm sorry, not to belabor it.
Don't hold back. Go ahead.
Future research should collect objective measures of height, weight, and BMI, in addition to objective measures of body composition, such as dual energy X-ray. Oh my gosh. So we need to do DEXA scans to assess changes in muscle mass, body fat, and frailty, which may be of particular importance to older. So yeah, I've done the waste of time cross-sectional work. So everyone else, take this and go do real science. What a waste. And then here's the final thing, Chuck. This was conducted, or the survey, that they aggregated the data that was collected in the middle of the pandemic. And I got to find here we go. Oh, yeah. Here we go. Additionally, research has shown that during the COVID-19 pandemic, individuals reported snacking more often and consumed more UPFs, which may have impacted their eating patterns and risk for ultra-processed food addiction. Okay, so in other words, just the thought, if you're trying to measure an addiction, you don't measure it in an environment where the behavior is artificially inflated. And I think we all remember this. I remember in 2020, all I did was binge drink and hang out with my neighbors, and I was not particularly concerned about my diet.
You weren't making sourdough bread, or?
Believe it or not, it's crazy, right? Okay, that is a bad environment to do a study like this. This is a waste of time. I'm sorry. I shouldn't be getting this upset over this.
I know. I think I've found a new way to trigger you.
You have. I need a safe space. I need a trigger warning before you discuss food addiction. Chuck,
this is not
such
fair.
a
You
joke.
choose the articles. You're the one that chooses the trigger.
I know. I have a masochistic streak. Look, we've talked before about youth nicotine addiction and youth tobacco use and all that stuff. And one of the things that you have to be careful about with that survey data is that when it was collected during COVID, it's hard to aggregate that data with the data that was collected before because you're dealing with students in different circumstances. You're not collecting the data in person, right? And so everyone was very cautious in saying, look, the numbers are going down. That's good, but we have to be aware that the results can't be perfectly mapped onto one another. But here, because food addiction and the tobacco industry, and just like nicotine, which is physiologically very different from Cheetos, they're just not the same. They don't affect your body the same. Your body doesn't do the same thing with them. Okay, I'm done. No stars. No stars. 0 out of 10 on Yelp. Can you give 10 stars on Yelp? 0 out of 5. Don't visit this restaurant. Unbelievable. What a waste. What a
This
waste.
is what
Okay.
happens when you get hangry. I'm going to get you a Snickers bar.
All right. If you want to read Chuck's more scholarly
my-
and balanced analysis of this,
Well, I don't know that it was more scholarly, but it was more temperate. I'll give it that.
if you want to read a fair analysis of this hackneyed waste of public money, Dr. Dinnerstein's article is called "Anatomy of a Food Addiction Study." Study in quotes. What a waste.
It's a family show.
I'm gonna get more hate mail for this one. That's okay. All right, if you want to read the article, it's at acsh.org. Click the subscribe tab. Give us your email address if you dare. The stories you read are the ones we talk about. You can follow us on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, and X. It's American Council on Science and Health. Matter of Facts, hosted by Anna Dolosky. She does videos. She does infographics. She's insightful. She's funny. And you'll learn some stuff. So please go follow us there. Thank you so much, as always. We'll see you next time.